Hey, Lovejoy Yoga Therapy with Michelle. It's that time again, Tips on Tuesdays. Now last week, Tips on Tuesdays, I shared with you a hip opener using your couch, which is very gentle on the hips and especially great for sensitive knees. This week, we're going to be taking a hip opener a lot deeper. Say what? Yes, we're going to be going deeper into the hips, the hip flexors, the groin, and the psoas muscle. Psoas, P-S-O-A-S. Now that is one of the most important muscles in our body. Why? It is the only muscle that connects your upper body to your lower body. So that psoas muscle starts at your thoracic spine in the 12th vertebra and extends itself down on either side of your body, deep beneath the hip flexors, and attaches to your thigh bones, your femurs. So that muscle is responsible, if that psoas muscle is too tight, which usually happens when we are stressed out, when we are in periods of chronic stress especially, that muscle pulls tight and it tends to create like a pulling action on your lower back, which creates tight hamstrings and tension and pain in the lower back. So opening that back up releases it and brings you back to your natural curve of your spine where you want to be. So opening the psoas helps with better posture. It also improves your breathing as your psoas is connected to your diaphragm, and it helps with all sorts of pain. I mean, even knee and hip pain, and even with clients that I've worked with that have either shoulder or chest or something going on in their elbows like tendonitis, when I get into the hips, something is released. Everything is connected. So for this variation, it's called a lizard lunge. And what you will need is either a mat or a carpeted floor on a rug is fine. And if you want extra padding for your knees, you can use a Mexican blanket or any other type of blanket. Just make sure to not fold it too high. You don't want your knees up too high. Keep it nice and small and make sure that it is flat and smoothed out so there are no lumps in it. I'm a huge fan of props, so that's what therapeutic yoga uses, is a lot of props. So if you have two blocks, I encourage you to grab them. If you don't worry about it. You can even use a stack of books. Today I have some of my trusty, what I call my yoga Bibles here, and that's just a snippet of my library. But you can use a stack of books. And let's get right into it. So once we're in the pose, I'm also going to explain to you the deeper benefits of stretching the psoas muscle. There's something a lot deeper going on in there, so stick with me and you'll find it out. So let's swing our legs around and come into a hands and knees position. And keep your blocks or your books in front of you nearby, okay? So hands and knees position, bring your knees hip distance apart onto your blanket, and place your hands underneath your shoulders, either palms flat, or if you have wrist issues, I'll encourage you to make a fist with both your hands so your thumbs are pointing forward to keep the shoulders externally rotated. Okay, so coming into this stretch, it's best to come into it warmed up, but since we're starting with it cold right now, I'm going to ease us in. We're going to do a little rocking back and forth motion to gently ease into that stretch. So grabbing your blocks or your books, you can put the books straight in front of you and place your hands on there if you want. Otherwise, come onto the blocks and take your left foot, doesn't matter which leg we start with. Last week it was right, this week we're going to do the left. So take that left foot and step it to the outside of your hands. This is important, so it's on the outside of your hands. You're going to walk the toes forward and turn the toes out slightly to the left. Good. To warm it up, what you want to do is rock your hips forward. So drop the hips down towards the front of the mat. Keep the spine long and the chin level to the ground. And then rocking yourself back, flex the foot. Hello hamstrings, ooh, I'm feeling that. Good, and now let's do that together with the breath. So you're gonna exhale everything out, let it go. And with your in-breath, as you inhale, rock it forward. If you can, inhale through the nose. And exhale through the nose, walking it back and flexing the foot. Keep the spine lifted, don't let your chest collapse. You wanna keep everything lifted. Good, inhale, walking it forward. And exhale, rocking it back. This should already feel good. Inhale one last time. So 3 times is kind of a good way to ease into it. And then exhale, walking back. Foot is flexed. Good, now on your next inhale, come all the way forward. And maybe this is enough of a stretch and you're already feeling it in your right hip and you're like, Michelle, I'm just gonna stay here. That's fine. Listen to your body. Otherwise, if you wanna take it a little deeper, you're welcome to lower your blocks. Or you can move them all the way out of the way, or if you're using your stack of books, maybe use 2 books instead of 3 or however thick they are. And if you want to go even deeper, come down to the elbows. If you are down on your elbows, whether they are on the books, on your blocks, or all the way on the ground, you want to make sure both your elbows are evenly touching. If you feel one of your shoulders lifting, like for me right now, I'm feeling a little bit tight. One of my shoulders is lifting. That might throw off your back. So I encourage you, please prop yourself up. Don't ever force yourself into a stretch. For today, I'm just going to keep my blocks on level 2 and keep my elbows here. And this is an important part where you want to breathe in and out through the nose. So breathing really, it's your most powerful tool. When you relax your breath and really deepen it, it helps signal the muscles to relax and ease into the stretch. When we hold our breath, we tend to like make a face. I've been known to make faces in some of my poses, so that's some of my work to relax my face, deepen my breath, and allow the body to surrender into the stretch as opposed to just muscling your way into it, which could end up injuring you. So we really want to use the breath as that tool to help us ease into the stretch. Good. I encourage you to probably stay here for about 10 nice deep breaths. On an exhale, you're going to release up, and maybe coming into a child's pose is a nice counterbalance. So widen your knees about mat distance apart, big toes touching. Extend your hips back to the heels, arms come overhead, rest the elbows down, rest your forehead, your third eye to the earth, and just come back to the breath, allowing the body to release. And now notice the difference between each of your hips. You might notice the difference. Good. And then when you're ready, you're going to rise back up and we'll come to the other side. So again, always starting in higher and with more ease, and then we'll go a little bit deeper if the body says that's okay. From here, extend your right leg out. Step the right leg forward. On the outside of your hands, turn the toes out just a little bit. Good. Again, using the rocking sensation with your breath, slow, gentle movement, deep breath in through the nose as you rock the hips forward. Keep the heart lifted. And exhale, walking it back, flex the foot. Inhale, walking forward. Chest is lifted. Exhale, rocking back, flex the foot. Keep the spine tall. Inhale and forward. And exhale. Ooh, nice hamstring stretch there. And then coming all the way forward, you can choose to stay here. If you're ready to go a little deeper, with each exhale, maybe you allow yourself to go a little bit deeper. You can always stay on your fists. You can come down to your elbows. There are always options, okay? So coming back to your breath, feel the hips sink and melt. Keep the shoulders relaxed, relax your neck. Notice your breath here, and notice, do you have some resistance in this pose? This pose tends to bring up a lot of resistance. I see this with students, and even with myself sometimes. There's like, you want to fidget. There's this natural like, okay, I'm ready to come out. Like I notice students sometimes fidgeting or moving around a little bit. This is important to ease into it. The reason for the fidgeting is not only is it uncomfortable sometimes to get into the stretch physically, but also emotionally. The psoas muscle is also referred to as the seat of the soul. It is said that we store all of our fears, our emotions, our stressors, and our worries right here in the hips. Have you noticed, like when you're stressed out, how your hips tend to contract, right? So this is where we want to open up. When you are going through like a tough time or a challenging time in your life, this is the time that you want to get into these body movements and really get into those hip openers, because it helps to release a lot of emotional stagnant energy that sits within us, and we want to get rid of that. So use your breath here. Allow yourself to surrender into it. And on an exhale, gently release yourself back up. Whew. And maybe find your way back to that child's pose again, which usually feels really good after that. So knees wide, big toes touching, extend your hips back to your heels, and lower your forehead to the ground, and come back to your breath. Feel the hips sink towards